For a lot of years, there wasn't a ton to love about 1979 Topps baseball cards. Sure, there was the Ozzie Smith rookie card, but Ozzie was just a defensive whiz and would never make it to the Hall of Fame, right? Then there was a few lesser rookies like Carney, Lansford, and Bobby Horner, and some fun and sort of gimmicky all-time leaders card. But this thing was going nowhere. Except Ozzie became a legend with a beeline to Cooperstown. Paul Molitor found a way to overcome his injuries and off-field problems to put together an unbelievable late career run, making his second-year card a hot item. And then we woke up one day to find that this set was 30-plus years old and not mass-produced like the stuff from the junk wax era. Suddenly, 1979 Topps was a winner, with some cards being more winning than others. With that in mind, here are the 10 most valuable cards from the 1979 Topps baseball card set based on PSA 9 selling prices as reported in the Sports Market Report SMR price guide. Paul Molitor was always an exciting player with plenty of upside, but injuries and off-field issues lessened his impact during the early years of his career. Beginning in the early 1990s, though, the Milwaukee Brewers installed the Igniter as a more or less regular DH, and he held that role through the rest of his career, including stints with the Toronto Blue Jays and his hometown Minnesota Twins. The result was an incredible late career surge that left Molitor with 3,319 hits, more than 200 home runs, 500 plus steals, a .306 lifetime batting average, and a Hall of Fame plaque. This second-year Molitor card is the first to picture him alone. He had to share his 1978 Topps rookie card with some dude named Alan Trammell. The 79 is a great card, but really hard to find well-centered. As such, SMR lists the PSA 9 copy at $100. Dave Winfield could probably have excelled as a professional in any sport he chose, and was in fact drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, NBA, Utah Stars, ABA, and Minnesota Vikings, NFL. To the eventual delight of baseball fans everywhere, though, Winfield signed with the San Diego Padres after they made him the 4th overall pick in the 1973 Major League Baseball draft. Winfield made his MLB debut that summer without ever suiting up in the minors, and the next 22 years would be a flurry of greatness that eventually landed him in Cooperstown. In 1979, he was nearing the end of his time with the Padres, as the New York Yankees would snag him in free agency prior to the 1981 season. This late Padres Winfield Topps card checks in at $150 in PSA 9, according to SMR. By 1979, Dale Murphy had flashed some good power. He clubbed 23 home runs in 1978, but was still struggling to find a position in the majors. After starting professional life as a catcher, Murphy spent most of '78 at first base and would sort of split 1979 with reduced overall playing time between the two. It wasn't until the Atlanta Braves shifted him to the outfield in 1980 that Murphy's career really began to take off. Before any of that happened, though, he took his hacks on this 1979 Topps card, his third issue and first solo card that brings around $30 in PSA 9. By the time this 1979 Topps Dennis Eckersley first made its way into collectors' hands, the young righty was coming off his breakout season. 20-8, 2.99 ERA, a fourth-place finish in the American League Cy Young voting for the Boston Red Sox. It was a rocky ride for Eckersley from there through the middle of the 1980s, as he struggled with off-field problems and a spotty on-field results that saw him traded to the Chicago Cubs in 1984 and the Oakland A's in 1987. And that was a turning point, as ace skipper Tony Lasorda and pitching coach Dave Duncan moved Eckersley to the bullpen, where he became a dominant member of the Bash Brothers team and stamped his own ticket to Cooperstown. Along the way, X cards climbed towards the top of whatever set they appeared in, and his 1979 Topps issue, the first to show him with the Bo Sox after 3 pasteboards with the Cleveland Indians, is a $175 item in PSA 9. At 39, Willie Stargell was well past his prime in 1979, but he mustered one last inspiring run to help his We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates win the World Series over the vaunted Baltimore Orioles. For his efforts, Stargell snagged a share of the National League Most Valuable Player award, along with St. Louis Cardinals first baseman Keith Hernandez. Thanks to Pop's big season, even if his co-MVP merit was debatable, and subsequent retrospective MVP sets, like the 1982 Kmart 20th anniversary box deal, this card has become an iconic symbol of the late 1970s baseball. As such, it can fetch in the $200 range in PSA 9. Nolan Ryan would leave the California Angels to sign the richest free agent pact to that point with the Houston Astros after the 1979 season. In that final season with the Halos, though, Ryan did what he always did. He led the league in strikeouts, 223, led the league in the fewest hits allowed, 6.8 per 9 innings, and sported a good, but not great record, 16-14, with a 3.6 ERA. Of course, over the next 15 seasons, the Ryan Express would become a bona fide legend, rocketing all his cards into the stratosphere. Today, this 1979 Topps Ryan is a $120 card in PSA 9, according to SMR. This one doesn't count as one of our 10 because I already mentioned Ozzie Smith, and because his rookie card is so far ahead of all the other 1979 Topps cards. So bonus! Add in Ozzie's legend, a solo player rookie, and condition scarcity thanks to tilting and centering problems, and you have a card that can bring in north of $725 in PSA 9 and multiples of 5 figures in PSA 10. Wowza! Every year as summer wanes, the baseball world pauses to remember the legacy of Thurman Munson, the Yankees captain and superstar catcher killed in a plane crash on August 2, 1979. He was one of the few active baseball players taken from us during the season and remains one of the greatest catchers not enshrined in Cooperstown. Will Munson ever make the Hall of Fame cut? Hard to say, but his 1979 Topps issue is his last major brand card as an active player, and it's become something of a classic. Given all that, its $40 price tag in PSA 9 doesn't seem that out of line, right? By 1979, George Brett was a perennial all-star and sometimes MVP candidate for the ever-competitive Kansas City Royals, but he had yet to become George Brett. You know, the 400 chasing, 390 hitting, hemorrhoid suffering, mind losing, pine tar using legend who personified baseball as well as anyone from his generation. Even so, his 1979 Topps baseball card is awesome, showing a waiting Brett ready to pounce on any ball hit his way at third base, and adorned with the All-Star banner, a great card that can fetch $50 in PSA 9 condition. Jim Palmer was sort of the 1970s baseball version of Tom Brady, part of a tremendously successful franchise, sickeningly good-looking, and damn good at his job. How good? From 1970 through 1978, Palmer won 20 or more games 8 times, nabbed 3 American League Cy Young Awards, and helped the Orioles to 4 American League East titles, 2 American League pennants, and 1 World Series championship, with pennants in 1969 and 1979 thrown in for good measure. And he was an underwear model. After all that, you might have expected all his baseball cards to have been destroyed in a mass hysteria jealous rage. But his solid 1979 issue lives on and sells for around $35 in PSA 9 according to SMR. Pete Rose left the Cincinnati Reds after the 1978 season, a development which pretty much ended any idea that the big red machine had another lap left in her. But while Charlie Hustle was helping lay the groundwork for a 1980 World Series title with the Philadelphia Phillies, fans and collectors were still seeing red, as in Pete's last Reds card. Of course, this 1979 Topps Classic would lose that designation when Rose returned to the riverfront 5 years later, but it's still a collector's favorite that can bring in around $150 in PSA 9. Like this video? Then like this video. and subscribe to our channel, waxpackgods.com.